I'm 75 now, and I have to admit something I've never said out loud. For most of my life, I followed religion the way people expect you to. I went to church, I said the prayers, I memorized the right words, but I never really understood any of it. I never really thought about it. And now, looking back, I feel like I wasted so many years doing what everyone expected, not what I believed. When I was a boy, my parents were very strict about church. Every Sunday morning, my brother and I would get dressed in our best clothes. I remember the stiffness of the shirt, the scratchy collar against my neck. My father would adjust our ties, and my mother would fuss over our hair, making sure we looked proper. Then we'd walk the few blocks to the church, quietly, because silence was expected. I remember sitting in the pews, staring at the wood paneling on the walls, watching the dust motes float in the sunlight that streamed through the stained glass windows. The preacher would talk, and I would nod and try to pay attention, but I never felt anything. Not in my chest, not in my stomach, not anywhere. I just listened, because that's what you did. That's what everyone around me did. At school, it was the same. The other boys would talk about the sermons, about sin and salvation, and I would nod along because I didn't want to seem different. I learned the right words, the right gestures, the right feelings to pretend. But inside, I didn't really feel anything. As I grew older, I kept the routine. I got married in my 20s. I had kids. I raised them the way I had been raised. I took them to church every Sunday. I said grace at every meal. I read the Bible to them at night. And still, I didn't feel the connection I was supposed to. I did it because it was expected, because it was safe, because it was easy to follow the same path that had been laid out for me. I told myself I believed, but in truth, I was just performing a role. Over the years, the act became heavier. Not heavy in a physical way, but heavy in a quiet, persistent way. I would wake up on Sunday mornings, dress my children, walk to church, sit through the sermons, smile at the neighbors, and nod along with the hymns. And I would feel nothing. The words didn't reach me. The songs didn't move me. I was just going through motions that felt increasingly empty. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. I was afraid to stop. Afraid that if I did, it would mean admitting I'd been wrong all this time. I worked a normal job, a desk job mostly, and religion was something I did alongside it. I sometimes thought about it quietly at night, after everyone else had gone to bed. Sitting alone in my living room, the lights dim, the ticking of the clock loud in the silence, I would try to pray. I would fold my hands, close my eyes, and speak the words. But I always felt a distance, like I was talking to someone who wasn't really there. I would open my eyes and feel tired of the pretending, tired of the act, tired of living someone else's life. It wasn't just that I didn't feel, it was that I started noticing small things around me that didn't add up. My friends who were vocal about their faith, some of them seemed angrier, harsher. My father, strict as he was, would scold me for not feeling enough. My mother would sigh and shake her head at my lack of emotion during prayers. I kept doing it though. I couldn't admit, even to myself, that maybe I'd been doing it all wrong. I remember one particular morning, early summer, my children grown and gone. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. The sunlight came through the window just right, and everything looked ordinary. The quiet hum of the refrigerator, the smell of the coffee, the ticking of the old wall clock. I thought about the sermons, the prayers, the hymns I had sung for decades, and I realized something I hadn't admitted before. I didn't believe any of it in the way I was supposed to. I never had, and that realization made me uneasy. Not angry, not sad exactly, just uneasy. Over the years, this quiet unease grew. I noticed it during the small, everyday moments. Sitting in the pews, watching families greet each other, feeling the awkwardness of the ritual. Standing outside in the parking lot, smiling at neighbors I barely knew. Folding my hands at night, repeating words I didn't feel. These little moments piled up, slowly, until I realized the weight of them. The routine had become a habit, a wall between me and whatever it was I might have felt if I'd allowed myself to think for myself. I can't even tell you when I first started questioning. It wasn't sudden. There was no event that flipped a switch. Just decades of noticing small inconsistencies, small gaps between what I said and what I felt. The realization came quietly, like a shadow in the corner of a room you didn't notice before. You see it, and suddenly you can't unsee it. I started wondering why I said the words I didn't feel, why I sat through sermons that didn't touch me, why I spent so many years following a path that wasn't mine. It's hard to describe the feeling of realizing you've lived most of your life pretending. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't hit you with a thunderclap. It's subtle. It's quiet. It's in the evenings when you sit alone, when the house is empty, when the coffee has gone cold and the sun is fading. You think about the words you said, the things you did, the people you tried to impress with your piety, and you realize you were just going through the motions. And that's where I am now, at 75, sitting with the weight of all those years. I can't get them back. I can't go and undo them. I can't make my younger self understand what I know now. And yet, even with all that, I'm starting to feel something I didn't feel before. A sense of clarity, maybe. Not peace exactly, but clarity. The moment of realization wasn't sudden. It didn't come with fireworks or tears. It came quietly, in a single afternoon when I was sitting in my study. The house was empty. The sun was fading through the window, soft and low, casting long shadows across the floor. My hands rested on the arms of the chair, the ticking of the clock filling the silence. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time I had prayed because I truly felt it, not because I had to. I felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. Sadness because it hit me that I had spent most of my life going through motions that didn't reach me. Relief because for the first time, I understood that it was okay not to have it all figured out. That maybe faith, real faith, isn't about following a script. Maybe it's about honesty, about sitting quietly and admitting what you feel, even if it's nothing at all. After that afternoon, I started noticing all the little ways this had shaped my life. I thought about my relationships with my children. I had raised them carefully, teaching them the words I had memorized, encouraging them to pray, to attend church. And I realized that sometimes I had done it more out of fear than understanding. I had worried that if they didn't follow the path, they would be lost. And in doing that, I may have missed chances to connect with them in ways that mattered more. Conversations late at night, walks in the park, just being present without any agenda. I thought about my friendships. Some of them had been built on shared rituals, on being part of the same congregation, attending the same events. And some of those friendships faded over the years. Not because of anything dramatic, but because the connection was built more on appearances than genuine understanding. I hadn't noticed it at the time, but now I see it clearly. I had followed the script, and in doing so, I had let small, meaningful moments slip by. And I thought about myself. All those mornings sitting in the pews, all those nights folding my hands in prayer, all the Sundays and holidays and quiet evenings spent performing the rituals. I lost time with myself too. I lost moments of quiet reflection that might have been real, honest, and deeply personal. Instead, I spent decades imitating something I didn't understand. There's a weight in that, a quiet regret that isn't loud but lingers in small ways, like noticing the empty chair at the table, or realizing that the room is quieter than it should be. It took a long time to come to terms with this. I could have been angry at myself. I could have been bitter. But anger doesn't help. Bitterness doesn't help. So instead, I try to focus on what I can do now. I try to live more honestly, even if it's just in small ways. I allow myself to sit quietly and think. I allow myself to question, to doubt, to be unsure. I read, I reflect, I try to be present in the simplest moments. Watching the sunlight on the floor, listening to the wind outside, noticing my own thoughts without judgment. And slowly, I've begun to feel a sense of freedom I never felt before. Not freedom from religion exactly, but freedom to be myself. Freedom to approach life in a way that feels real to me. Freedom to connect with my family and friends honestly, without the weight of expectations. Freedom to admit finally that I don't have all the answers, and that maybe that's okay. If I could speak to someone younger, or even someone my own age who feels stuck, I'd say this: don't wait as long as I did to think for yourself. Don't be afraid to question. Don't follow a path just because it's expected. It's okay to sit quietly and not have all the answers. It's okay to doubt. It's okay to change your mind, even late in life. The important thing isn't what you say or what you do on the surface. It's whether it's honest. I would also say this: pay attention to the small moments. Don't let routines or habits take the place of real reflection. Sit quietly with yourself sometimes. Notice the sunlight, the shadows, the sounds of the house. Notice your own thoughts without trying to force meaning onto them. You might be surprised at what comes to you when you stop performing and start observing. There's no perfect way to live. There's no script you have to follow. And there's no shame in admitting that you've spent years following a path that didn't feel right. We all make choices based on what we know, what we were taught, what we think is expected. And that's okay. But it's never too late to pause, to reflect, and to start living in a way that feels honest to you. I don't feel lost anymore. I don't feel like I failed. I see my past for what it was. A series of small choices, some careful, some misguided, but all human. And I accept it. I accept that I followed the path I was given, that I learned some lessons the hard way, and that I have the chance, even now, to live more truthfully. So, now at 75, I sit quietly. I think, I reflect. I don't have all the answers. I don't claim to understand everything. But I try to live honestly. I try to be present. I try to connect with my family and my own thoughts without pretense. And I feel at peace. Not because I have it all figured out, but because I am finally living my own life. And that, I think, is enough.